Hi everyone, thank you for joining us both in person and online. Today with us is Mikhail Bukhtoyarov, who is a docent at the Institute of Humanities, Siberian Federal University, Krasnoyarsk in Russia. This year, we are honored to have Mikhail as a research fellow at the Institute for Philosophy and Social Theory, University of Belgrade, and his stay here is supported by the Southeast European Solidarity Fellowship for Threatened Scholars. Mikhail holds a Master of Education in Instructional Technology from Kent State University, USA, and a PhD in Social Philosophy. Since 2003, he has been teaching courses in philosophy, methodology of science, critical thinking, and global issues. His research interests include philosophical issues related to human-machine educational systems, learning ecosystem, and educational ideologies. Today's lecture is called Connected Learner, Augmented Learner, Unplugged Learner, Seamlessness of Educational Experience and its Interruptions. So, Mikhail, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. Hello, dear colleagues, dear audience, and it's a great honor for me and great pleasure for me to be here today as a presenter. I've participated in several events by IFDT, and really the audience here is great. And today is a special day for me, of course. I would like to point one more time that this event would not be possible without the support of the Southeast European Solidarity Fellowship for Threatened Scholars, which gave me opportunity to be here and to be hosted by the Institute and well, all the organizations involved really do a lot of work to support scholars. So thank you very much. My topic today is quite complex. As you see, well, it's long, first of all, but this topic is the result, well, not the result, but I would say the, it's not the final stage of my research. It's more the process, not the result of research that I'm doing and which is combining the fields that I'm working on for the, I have been working on for the recent like 20 years, starting my career in academia. And this particular topic is not something that suddenly appeared. It's a topic that emerged out of my practical experience as an educator and out of my theoretical findings and research. So connected learner, augmented learner, unplugged learner. And let's try to present, to discuss it. One more thing that I wanted to point out is the structure of this lecture. Actually, it's on the right. You see, this is closer to the structure that I actually have. But these are the main parts which I'm going to discuss today. And one more thing is that having this kind of experience of a teacher, of an educator, I really not a lecturer. I'm more about discussion, participation. So sometimes I will ask the audience during the lecture, if I'm permitted, if I'm allowed to do so. So there will be some breaks where I ask you and hope that the audience will respond. Okay. First, let's test it, how it works. This is a set of questions which are very, very basic and very simple, maybe even primitive. But I want you to react somehow, to show me whether you have experience of online learning. And can you just wave or show who believes that she has the experience of online learning? Well, after the pandemic learning, I believe this is not a question. Most of us have. Second question, it's more tricky. Was it successful? And here I see not so many hands. Well, partially, yes. It's how we define successful, of course. But if the learning occurred and we have this experience that leads to particular goals, learning goals, competencies, or whatever we call them, we can say that the learning was successful. And would you like to repeat it? Well, I mean, not exactly that experience. When 15, even more than 15 years ago, I was doing my master's at Kent State University, the professors told, and they were repeating the same idea. Online learning is something that people deal with not because they like it, but because they have to, or they find it more efficient or less expensive, less time consuming. So online learning occurs, and usually it results in negative experience. Like evaluation of online learning can be often not very high. The experience of a learner can be so-so, but the research they provided us with multiple cases when learners come back to online learning because it was efficient. And for us living in 2023, after the pandemic wave of online learning, we understand that it does work, not like it was intended. Not all the learning during the pandemic was successful. Again, multiple research, especially in the field of evidence-based educational research, proved that the efficiency was not very high. A lot of learners lost some time and were not capable of online learning. But still, it moved further. So the question that I want to draw your attention to is from Dewey's philosophy. It's the idea of experience, which can be either primary or secondary. And if we analyze, well, this work, actually there are a lot of references to this particular work that defines experience in two ways. Like the experience which is, well, the author does not call it this way, but later the critical analysis differentiates the primary experience, the experience that we have dealing with the environment, and the secondary experience, the experience which is called reflective. And Dewey uses this term reflective. He also uses the scientific experience, which is kind of positivist approach, and the secondary experience, which is he sometimes calls philosophical, in his work. And the question for me, well, it drives me to this particular concept. Seamlessness. I don't know whether you met this somewhere, whether you are familiar with the idea of seamlessness, but it's widely used in IT management and management studies, operations research, and in business approach. Basically, seamlessness became a kind of buzzword. For education, it would be continuous educational experience without those interruptions, without those barriers in infrastructure. Let me explain what I mean. This is how the University of York presents seamless student experience. We can see how the university visualizes this experience. You see two students on campus doing something together with one device. This is a little bit strange in the times when we have multiple devices connected, but still seamless student experience. And it's not something unique, because this is American University of Michigan, as far as I remember. And here there is a definition, actually. So seamless experience allows users to move between tasks without needing to learn about it. Here I have a long pause, because just think about it. The university doesn't want, well, basically provides services that prevent students from learning. Prevent students from learning about IT and about the methods they're using, about the tools they're using. So seamless experience here is something that just leaves the student, the learner, without this level of reflection. Well, one more example from academia. When I was searching for the articles, again, seamlessness, seamless access to the articles. Just click, select, and have the result. And final example. I'm sorry for many screenshots, but it's really a buzzword today. You see that Harvard Business Review, this reputable source of information for decision makers, it gives us more information about seamlessness. It's a part of the digital transformation concept. The digital transformation, which is something that probably all the countries, but the majority of educational institutions, the universities and schools, the governments are getting through and trying to promote the digital transformation, and seamless education, seamless customer experience is a part of this concept. By the way, this particular article is quite critical. It appeared 2 years ago, right in the middle of the pandemic, that not every customer is satisfied with this seamless experience. Some customers do love having control over the transitions between one server to another, not having those automatic redirections between the accounts, and not having one account for everything. So seamless experience is not something that is universal. And one more concept. I was trying to figure out who was the person who coined this, but I really love the combination of words, homo connectus. Well, the research in the literature showed that it was 1996 when the concept, when this particular combination of words was introduced. But later it was reintroduced several times. The idea was the same, quite simple, that Homo sapiens moves to the next stage when the technology and everything related to human activity in environment is defined through connections, multiple connections and multiple technologies shaping these connections. So Homo connectus basically is the human which is technologically equipped. And the example. Again, this is quite new. It's the screenshot from Accenture website. Do you know what Accenture, Gartner, Coopers, and Deloitte are? Have you heard these names? It's the most influential and probably most significant consulting companies in the world. They really help the decision makers in the capitalist society to transform the modern economy. The paradigm of the fourth industrial revolution, of the digital transformation, is heavily influenced by the companies like that, and they are working out the models and promoting the tools for digital transformation. So platforms, a platform-based economy, and they provide an analytical research and collect data for companies and for the governments. So these companies are really important in terms of economy, business, and decision making. And the idea behind this connected worker and connected workforce is very simple. Human beings, well, those who are involved into production, they have to be equipped with smart devices, with technologies which provide constant flow of data, and the decision makers, the managers, they can control basically every step of the connected work. So it's the paradigm where a worker becomes augmented. And there are multiple conferences, there are multiple examples of how this particular concept is applied. So it's not science fiction.
Music smart glasses that were developed for the industry.
After Google was not successful in introducing them into the market, they shifted the paradigm and made it a part of the smart worker workplace. So connected or smart worker is a person who is wearing some devices either in the workplace or in the field. So smart workers can work anywhere. So it's not only in the factory. And this idea of connected someone, if you do literature review, you figure out that the combination of words connected, worker connected, researcher connected, learner connected, educator, it starts growing at the end of 1990s, and by 2020s it becomes really big. The connected, well, let's have a look. Connected worker. Well, connected worker is mostly about technology. So the only meaning is connected to the server. And when it comes to management or research or academia or education, the meaning of connectedness is shifted. So it becomes social. For example, when we deal with the connected management, it's mostly about being connected, socially connected. It's mostly about being involved and interacting with the team. When it's about connected researcher, the meaning also is not only about the technology. It's also about being linked to other researchers, building that research network and collaborative research. Connected educator is also about social meaning of connectedness. But every type of connected someone, it implies technology. So connected manager sometimes is addressed as augmented manager. It's the manager who is a decision maker, and the source of decisions is data. The connected researcher is using, well, there are, for example, Australian Library Association provides tools for connected researchers. It means services, tools that allow a researcher working with data or with information resources. And connected educator is more, it's closer to the meaning which derives from psychology. So connected educator is also about feeling connected, and it completely changes when we come to the connected learner, because connected learner is practically everywhere addressed as the learner that feels connected. So it goes from technology to social and psychological meaning of connectedness. But again, connected learner is somebody using the medium to connect, technology. Why I'm talking about connected learner? Well, last year in September, Derek Woodgate published the research, well, his dissertation, about augmented learner, which combines the critical analysis of constructivist and connectivist learning theories, and well, he introduces the idea of post-normality, post-normal times which require post-normal skills. So in the domain of education, we deal with the human being that cannot cope without this technological layer. And this human being has to be augmented. So modern education, post-normal education, requires learners to be augmented. And without that, they cannot be successful neither in education nor in the modern economy. So again, you see that to become the connected worker, and connected worker in terms of technology, you have to become the connected learner and move from psychologically connected to technologically connected. This approach, technological approach to workforce, to presenting a human being as a part of the digital machine that we are constructing right now, we all together are constructing. It was researched long ago and criticized long ago. This is quotation from 1998, and I especially like it because the author gives us this idea of corporations which require instant on mode, instant online mode from the human. So we are already there. 25 years later, we are already in this world where without being connected, we cannot be a part of for example, of a corporation. But moreover, we moved to the stage when we cannot be a part of the education, of the state, of the modern society. So it's more than that. Connectedness, well, and here again, it's a very interesting, very short article, very short paper. It's published on the university website, but it's cited like hundreds of times. And it gives us the understanding that connectedness, how connectedness works in one of the most important learning theories, constructivist theory. Constructivist theory which shaped the modern online education. Constructivist theory that became the core of learning management systems, became the core of online tools which we are using today. So basically the tools which we were using for the recent 5 years, they were developed and the initial versions of these tools were developed in late 1990s or early 2000s, for example, learning management systems. And they have a constructivist paradigm behind that. For example, Martin de Gamas, who was the founder of learning management system Moodle, which is one of the popular classical learning management systems. And the idea in this article is built around the topic of social presence, which is later I will explain because there is one more layer of this constructivist theory, which is very important. But social presence is not possible without that feeling and that state of connectedness. The example that is given in this article is a picture of somebody who is not your friend. Well, you probably do not know this person. And this picture is located on your device. You can be aware of this picture, you can be aware of this particular person or not. It doesn't matter. But the state of connectedness still remains. So when you have this potential opportunity to figure out that this person in this particular picture on your device is somebody you don't know yet, but you can know later, it creates that connection. And it's 2003, it's before the era of social networks. Today we are much more connected. Today we have not one picture, we have the cloud of pictures. So connectedness is growing. But here is the central slide. Well, this is classics for those who are dealing with the constructivist paradigm in education and who deal with the learning theories. This is one of the famous models called community of inquiry. It inherits Piaget's philosophical foundations, but it was developed in 1990s and early 2000s. This model explains how online educational experience is constructed, and basically it is used by the course designers. It is used by instructional designers. It is used by educators to evaluate their educational activities online. And it gives us the idea that educational experience in constructivist world, it requires social presence. It means that interaction with the group, with other learners and the teacher should be constructed somehow. Cognitive presence, which basically is the information, the topic, the subject of learning. And the teaching presence. The teaching presence is the organizational part. So how the designer or the teacher shapes the whole educational set of educational activities. So it's how the courses are organized or how the projects are structured. So this is a very applied model. And people all over the world are using it. It's very popular paradigm. For us, the question is whether this educational experience is possible when we deal with the technology that actually is not included into this model. Let me explain what I mean. I intentionally use the term e-experience and e-education, not e-learning, because e-learning is more broad, and e-education is usually about formal learning, structured learning, which is provided by organizations or even national systems of education. Here, one more interactive part. What do you think about educational experience? What is more educating? When we use a laptop or computer, which is our own, which we do not share, or when we use a shared computer, for example, in a public library, or in a family where there is only one device. And it was the issue during the pandemic, actually. I know that a lot of families struggled with that when people simply did not have computers at home. Or third variant, when a learner uses a personal smartphone, which is intended to be personal. Well, the computer can be shared potentially, but this is something really personal. But sometimes, of course, it can be shared. But what is more educating in your opinion? Here, I give you 1 minute to think, maybe to raise hand. Is it number one? Who agrees that it's more educating? Is it number two? Number one, I see my colleagues, I think, are voting for number one, personal computer. Well, this is, yeah, thank you. Or shared computer. Or a mobile device. My students they actually can successfully perform many tasks and complete their assignments using any of these options. But that will be a different educational experience. But when we are in the process, in the domain of online learning, actually for constructivists, for this for this model, there is no difference. And this is very important, because the communication medium actually is shaping our experience with the environment. So the environment is not the online course. The environment is not the virtual communicational environment. It's not the chat or the instructional content. When we faced the pandemic, it became obvious that the educational environment cannot be separated from the physical, from the computer, from the smartphone, from the room where the learning occurs. And a lot of families did not know how to cope with this problem. And a lot of educators did not know how to cope with this problem too, because they were using the paradigm where learning occurs virtually, somewhere on the server. Well, these are two approaches to the educational experience. One is from the article that is systemic research and critical research of Dewey's understanding of experience. So the experience should be started and, well, should have the beginning and the end. So the person who experiences learning should be capable of defining that it was the educational experience. The second approach is from connectivism. It is one more theory that is a learning theory that is widely criticized. It's not recognized everywhere. It's not universal. Sometimes it's included into textbooks, but connectivism, the authors of connectivism are Stephen Downes and George Siemens, Canadian researchers, Canadian educators, and very often they are addressed as philosophers of education. So in second approach, you see that the experience is defined through the network, like interactions and connections in the network. And for connectivist paradigm, the idea of growing personal network is the foundation, is the core of this paradigm. Personal learning network can be grown with different means. It can be, well, it can be shaped in many ways. And personal learning network is actually the process of learning itself. So the patterns that emerge in this network define the educational experience. For me, the biggest question to connectivism is whether we can call them personal. Because like with the constructivist paradigm, we understand that here every kind of network is defined not by the learner, not only by the learner, but also by the platforms and providers of the services and the devices. So from my point of view, this idea of personal learning network does not give us opportunity to reflect on the experience. Again, we have the gap between how it is divided in the how it is approached in the learning theory and how actually it's structured and how it's going on in the real world. So, is this reflective experience, this second level of experience, this secondary experience, possible when we approach learning, e-learning, online learning, with the tools of constructivist, which is the dominating theory today, or connectivist learning theory? My answer is no. When we deal with constructivism or connectivism, we completely lack this layer of technology, this background, this hardware and infrastructure which define our experience. And here comes the final part, being unplugged. Well, again, during the pandemic and later, we faced multiple cases when students or teachers cannot continue. They cannot learn or teach. They cannot be part of the process, which was constructed, which was designed according to the learning theories, according to the models and theoretical and not theoretical applied tools developed for learning. What happened well, this is an example. It's not from the pandemic. It's from real life. What happens when we have this disruptive experience? A learner is hacked. What should happen? A learner should restore the account somehow, or leave it. Or what happens when the device is broken? Is it about learning? Is it an educational experience? Or number 3 and number 4, they are from the old good days when we could fail in educational in our educational path only because we lost some physical device, physical something that is not from the digital domain. Well, from my point of view, the most disruptive here is the digital. First and second. Why? Because it does not depend on the learner. Very often we do not reflect on how we are dependent on the provider. For example, a group which is discussing the learning activities or the content on social network. It can be blocked, or the learner can be blocked from the whole platform. Then learning does not occur. Or the device which becomes outdated, for example, the browser is not updated. This learning experience, to continue having this learning experience, you have to jump out of the domain of online learning. You have to do something extra. And this kind of interruptions or disruptions are actually shaping our educational experience even more than the content. What I want to say is that fragmentation and the multiple interruptions that we are getting through, they actually make us stop and reflect on our experience. It never happens when we are using this. And most of the paradigms, like constructivism and connectivism, they do not reflect on this particular case, when the learning stops, when the learning is not happening because the physical infrastructure is something different from that online domain. And here is the final idea. The degree of agency, the degree of how we actually shape our own learning and education, moral education, which is bigger and more significant, because our future depends on how we succeed there. We do not reflect on the gaps and failures which happen when we are dealing with this domain, digital learning. And the planned activities, designed by the instructional designers, by curriculum designers, they often are not linked to the actual learning environment, which is physical, which is here. Well, this is what I usually show to my students when I teach the topic of learning theories. Probably you know this kind of approach: behaviorism, cognitivism, constructivism, and either connectivism or other approaches to learning. What we faced during the pandemic. the educational activities and the educational, the whole education was structured according to the second, to the third and fourth approach. But when the disruption happened, the teachers actually had to go to the first one. It's not first, well, it's the learning theory that is not intended to be used these days. You know, it's not popular to say that you are in a you are working in a behaviorist manner. For educators, behaviorism today is something that is really far from digital. You have to be either constructivist or somebody more progressive. But the experience of the recent 3 years proves that we actually deal with the behaviorist approach. It's proctoring, it's strict tasks, and the teachers who actually were shouting at their students or asking, begging them to be online, because it's behavior. And the constructions here did not work, very often did not work. This is the final metaphor. On the left, we have a creature which is artificial, which actually is not a human, but still this creature is something that does not, well, this creature does not exist, of course. It's just the book and the movies. But on the right, we also have somebody who is really important. And the idea of universality, of perfection is on the right. And there is no human here. Our learners, those who are using digital tools, online education, they are somewhere in between. Neither on the left nor on the right. Today's technology, it's kind of scary. It's closer to the left picture, to this idea of being constructed from different parts and not shaped really well, not functioning really well. But today we are in the point of technological revolution. We are moving towards the God machine, to the machine that is capable of doing anything, like perfection. And the system of education will respond to that, will have to respond to that. Actually, it is currently under the heavy influence of the current technologies, of the language models, which are not perfect, but moving us towards that perfection. So my idea is that our contemporary theories, learning theories, which are included into the textbooks, they do not work. Neither does the technology.
Thank you so much, Mikhail, for this insightful lecture. I have a couple of questions here, but first I will pass the mic to the audience here and online, and then if there's any time left, I'll jump in.
Working. Okay. Do you actually think that with the new technology advancement like artificial intelligence, and maybe some other, we need like the people, and maybe together with that artificial intelligence, they would need to develop a new theory of learning.
Well, I'm not sure that we have time for that, because the previous theories, they were gradually evolving, and it took the recent century to shape these four theories, and the most recent theories are trying to include artificial intelligence, for example, the connectivist paradigm. But I'm not sure that we will be capable of developing something, because the industry, the education, which becomes an industry, it's technologically shaped these days. It's impossible to imagine educational institutions or educational systems which are not including the digital transformation, which are not including the technologies. Well, I believe that they are winning. So I'm not an optimist here. We will not be given the chance to have this layer of reflections and this experience of reflecting on the technologies which are shaping us right now.
Okay, can I jump in with the question
of course.
is related to this? It's also about the reflection. Like, how do we reflect on the experience? What do you think? Like, what should we do to reflect on the learning experience? Do we actually need the disruption to happen in order to reflect, or is it possible to reflect during the seamlessness, during the seamless experience? And I think that. Even during the seamless experience, we can reflect, but that's the matter of media literacy. So I'm going into that direction, like how media literate or AI literacy, or yeah.
Great question. I believe that it's not possible to combine this seamlessness with the level of that level of experience which requires understanding where, when, and where, and how the transition from one technology to another technology is happening. So we do not, seamless technologies, seamless environments, they are constructed the way we do not realize when and how it happens. So it's really difficult for us to say, okay, I'm currently on this server, for example, or I'm using this particular framework. I'm currently using the technology which has this and that technological stack, for example. So I believe that without being informed about that, we cannot reflect. We do not have enough information, enough knowledge, and we cannot be instructed about it. We cannot be informed because it's a way too complex knowledge. An individual human is not equipped with the capability of dealing with this level of complexity. So
we'll need more media theory.
We are just inside this process.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm sorry for being pessimistic.
It's not about pessimism or optimism. It's about what is really going on, and because it's at the threshold, it's just starting. We can't have, for example, towards language models that just emerged and are now widely available. We can't have critical distance because we are in them now and interacting with them. So it's very difficult for a regular person, for us mortals to have a critical distance already. It takes time. Like, for example, when the internet started and digital technologies emerged, only now we have, for instance, Only now, after, I don't know, 15, 20 years, we have research that shows what it has done to us, especially the research on children or on their development. Now we see what these technologies are actually doing. So we need time, actually, and more research and more examinations of these interactions.
But we are already introducing
Yeah,
the
but we
new
are-
technologies, and we are competing to introduce, for example, the language models. They are demonstrating how this seamlessness can become threatening when we don't know whether it's a human or it's a machine. And here it clearly demonstrates how it can be, how it can emerge as something that really threatens our ability to differentiate. It's not about Turing test. It's about our ability to figure out whether this is a technology or this is not a technology.
Does it matter?
When learning occurs, it does not let us, well, how can we reflect then? How we can have this second layer of reflection when we do not know what was our experience. If our experience is constructed and we really believe that it's a human, for example, or we really believe that it's the environment, like the environment in online communication. We really feel that it's a communication. It's a process that engages us, sometimes engages us deeply, but still, when we reflect, do we think about the channel or bit rate or servers which make it possible or shape our experience this particular way? Well, the low bit rate and, for example, interruptions can completely change this process of communication. Those who are the part of the audience who is on Zoom can have the experience which is completely different from what was intended, what was constructed and planned. And when the pandemic learning occurred, it happened multiple times. Every family had this situation when, well, the teacher wants the lesson to be structured like that, and lesson was a complete failure because the technological level failed. And was the teacher reflecting on that after that? What are the tools for that, for this kind of reflection? The educational theory do not provide those tools.
So I'll try to just to radicalize the thing a bit, because so what would be the main question, I think, with the new technologies, not only in the education but also in education, is important. One thing is that we can evaluate how closely could technology help us to realize our goals of education and values in education. And the other things that we are also witnessing, that technology and the new ways, especially if it is also a new way how we understand human as human connector, change what the values and the goals are, even in some practical ways, because if seamlessness became a goal of education, then we changed the goal of education. And that's why we cannot actually evaluate the risk, because the risk is incountable when we don't know values under which we should evaluate risk. And the question is then, are we ready in such an important manner? I don't want to say that I'm pro or contra. I just want to say that the question could be, are we ready to allow such unpredictable change of values in education, and in which way we are ready to do it? And that's I think it's important question, and not only the question if technology can help us achieve our goals from our perspective.
Mm-hmm. A very interesting question and very complex one. Well, first part about technology, like and achieving our goals in setting our goals. The trick here is that when we use technology in education, it will always imply including the technology into the educational goals. So it's like iteration, that iterational approach when we have to use technology to achieve our goals, which include technology. So it's a loop, endless loop. And the more technology we have, the more technology will be included in the goals. I don't think that, for example, a connected worker is the goal, because from my point of view, a connected worker and this paradigm of the connected workforce is just the intermediate stage, the human being equipped with technology in the workplace. Well, this kind of human cyborg can be substituted with automatic device. Later, sooner or later, we will probably have more automation in this domain. But for the humans who are learning, well, I believe we will have more humans involved into the educational practices which tie us to technology, which make us basically sit with the plastic box, stare at the screen, and do various tasks. Well, there can be different content. There can be different educational value of this content. But the physical environment will be either this kind of environment when we deal with the screen, or maybe it will be shaped by more humane, I would say, technologies, which will allow us to stand up and do something, like wearable devices, for example. Smartphones are a big step forward. They allow us at least to move, not to sit with the plastic box all the time.
Yeah, but there already are, like, for example, VR environments for business or education, or so it's more kind of human-centered than technologically centered, so where you can actually move and depending on which equipment you have.
And our homes turn into this kind of devices. Basically, the whole concept of smart cities, smart campuses. The universities are crazy about smart campuses these days. They are trying to equip the classrooms or the libraries, and the whole campus can be converted into the into one machine, and it's also related to the goals they set up for the educational programs, for the educational activities. But it's also it's again multiplication of technology. So we are doing it to have more technology around us, and we just, without this interruption, if not interruption, if it's completely seamless, we will just be part of the big technological world.
We already are, not only in education, but our whole experience is now shaped by connectedness.
Yes, but connectedness is not everywhere right now. We have interruptions. We still have these interruptions which make us think about that. Oh, my computer is not working. Can I live without my computer? I can take my smartphone.
for your presentation. I've come late and probably missed some points, but I have a question about linguistic language models. And do you think that problem begins when linguistic models generate texts, for example, generate essays instead of students, and we cannot discriminate between generated by students neural networks and machinery neural networks? Or more problem will begin when machines will be included in the evaluation process, when the evaluation of the essays would be also the function of something like ChatGPT. I think the human being would be completely excluded from the learning process, and it would not be the learning, it would be just an imitation. But while students is using ChatGPT for generating essays, students are getting new skills how to discriminate between what is similar to human-like text and what is not similar. So it is also learning, it is also upskilling in using neural networks and using new technologies. Thank you.
A very interesting question. Thank you very much for this introduction of this topic, because the language models are really getting a big issue for education. I believe that the answer to the language models will be a very behaviorist. It will be proctoring. Maybe new types of proctoring, when we just can trace the whole process of the writing or creating some artifact. It's much easier than to analyze the results, and it's much more efficient in this case. But the question is whether this will be necessary for what type of activities. Is it necessary to train a connected worker? Is it necessary to train a worker that has the workforce that has access to the language models? If the market requires, if the job market requires those who are capable of using the language models, I believe that very soon we will not simply give students the tasks related to generating texts. We will invent new ways of dealing with that. And essay writing, well, proctoring. And for the passionate students who really want to have this kind of experience, you know, somewhere with, I don't know, maybe pen and paper, sitting with the candle. Yes.
Okay, I would like to get back to the topic of disruptions. Do you think, like, it's a little bit, you know, reference to science fiction? Well, there was, I don't know, I think it's Heinlein, when there was special course for the teenagers when they were transferred to some planet where they would not have basically technology, and they stayed there, and something happened and they stayed for longer. But the thing is, do you think that it's possible to actually include those periods of disruption in some curricula intentionally? So to unplug the learners from technology in some way as a part of curriculum?
Well, that's a good point. I personally think that it's necessary. It's necessary to construct the courses and the curriculum with this kind of reflection in mind. It's necessary to analyze the technologies used and the potential disruptions of these technologies, and not like the help desk, not like the answer to the questions which arise when the technology fails and when we want to find a quick solution. I believe that courses should include this reflection, but it's probably we will not have enough time for that, because the technologies are getting too complex for that. So when you can understand the technology, and the university does not want you to understand the technology, the university wants you to have this seamless experience. It's one way. But when the technology is something that is from the sci-fi domain, you know, when this singularity is happening, we will simply not be capable of reflections, and will be not capable of including it into the process of education. How can you understand what is not understandable by the majority of humans?
No disruption.
I believe no.
Do we have any questions online? No? Olga. Gordon, izvolite.
Hvala. Thank you for your lecture. Spasiba. I would like to broaden the perspective, while I think that the sources for such developments, including use of technology in education, are not limited to education itself. So I think that the main question and the main problem is to identify structure, forces, processes which generate conditions which then lead to such developments. And of course, the lack of reflection is not limited to education. So we would expect, first of all, of education to provide a forum for reflective thinking and critical thinking. But unfortunately, this is not the case, or not any longer, if I may say. So there is some kind of devaluation of reflection, generally speaking, because reflection requires some conditions. But the way how the modern societies and the modern system is organized contradicts those, or prevent, or somehow limits those conditions. So somehow, without raising the fundamental question, in what kind of society humans would like to live, we cannot address properly, in my understanding, that question. And that process of somehow suspending reflection started many centuries ago, in my understanding, with the transition from handicraft to manufacture and then industrial production. This was one way how reflection on the work process started to be somehow suspended or excluded, because workers who work in an industrial manner of production just don't have possibilities to reflect on the whole process of production, and they even could have no idea what would be the result of their work. And of course, the modern technologies continued that process. So, sorry, I don't want to be too long, but my main worries are actually where to find, I don't know, ghettos under contemporary conditions, which could serve as somehow sources or reinforcers or places of change toward more reflective way of life and organizing society, organizing production, organizing consumption. This is also the problem. We don't think what is behind when we buy a T-shirt, but there is a whole complex history and system of conditions which are behind those simple things we don't think when we buy it. So somehow I am looking for such places, or I don't know how to name, where this could initiate some radical urge for reflection, generally speaking. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the comment. It's very important. I actually agree with the most part of it. My idea, well, I would like to continue like this line of argumentation, and I will start with the question: Can you imagine a connected worker whose training includes the reflection of the experience of a connected worker, whose training includes the reflection on technologies used? Will the companies be interested? Will the modern capitalism be interested in having the connected worker who is a connected thinker? For me, the answer is no. So the idea of critical thinking, and thank you very much for mentioning critical thinking, because, well, the contemporary paradigm of critical thinking included in the educational curricula, it's also based on Dewey's philosophy. If we do research in the literature, the American School of Critical Thinking, it completely derives from Dewey's reflective experience. So for me, it's a big question where we can place this critical thinking, having the digital transformation in mind. I don't see the answer. I don't see this place for reflections.
Which brings us back again to new media studies, which should be included in the curricula. I mean, it's not new. It's since, I don't know, from Marshall McLuhan to Jean Baudrillard and so on and so forth to today. So actually you have these critical thinkers that deal with the issue of the emerging technology since the 90s, since the 60s, then 80s, 90s, the internet, and until today. So there's a whole body of literature actually that drive us towards media literacy and critical thinking and critical distance towards the very technologies that shape us.
The problem is that I don't see this idea in the reports by Deloitte, by PricewaterhouseCoopers, and other advisors to the decision makers. So that would be great. thinkers equipped with the smart sensors and philosophizing workforce. But have we seen it on the previous stages of capitalism? Like workers, thinkers who actually are equipped by the system of education to be thinkers. Workers who are who are constantly critically approaching to the experience they are having as a workforce.
Oh, that will never change.
And today, those who actually define and shape the platforms, and shape the seamless experience, which hides those barriers, this technological level from us. Basically, seamlessness is the process of hiding the technological background. It's the process of polishing the interface. And we are perfect users. Users who do not try to break the system as soon as it works.
Excuse me, just a sentence. I mean, it is not just technology which is hidden from us, but social conditions, relations, structures. And these are actually places, this is the place which generates the consequences. Because, of course, what are values behind interest in preventing workers from reflection?
Yes, exactly. For many years, I've been the person who promoted digital technologies in education. Actually, I prepared thousands of people, equipped them with technologies, taught and helped with different tools. So for me, it's a major change. It's major change in the paradigm. What I see now from my experience of being the techno-evangelist, or person promoting and constructing the technological layer of education. Well, I even have experience of, setting up the servers and doing all that job with content management, learning management systems. I understand that it's even dealing with the technological layer. It's still very difficult to jump onto that critical position and start thinking about how it structures the society, how it structures the human life, basically. And, well, I don't know. The change in paradigm occurred for me. I'm not satisfied with the learning theories. I'm not satisfied with the explanations and the instructions and the models they provide. But I'm not sure that I'm capable of constructing the answer and the new paradigm.
I would just like to add a comment based on what Gordon has said, is that for me, I found it curious in the very beginning of your presentation that there was a slide where you said like connected worker is technological, then educator is technological and social, and then in the end the learner is social. So for me, it was interesting that you even separated technological as a social, because I see technology as a social phenomenon. Technological is social. So for me, this distinction that you made in the first place kind of doesn't really work, because it's not only technology, as Gordon says, it's the whole system which is social.
This distinction is due to the basically the definitions, the approach in the articles, in the research, when the research addresses the technology, for example, platforms like wires and code, and when it's about social relations and about psychology. For connected learner, the whole definition is different.
Okay, thank you for clarification. And we have time for one more question. Olga, please. Sorry, I interrupted you.
I'm thinking about maybe we should distinguish between different kinds of reflection on technology. Because as a learner using various technologies helping me in different ways, my way of reflecting on them, the way that is most important for me, is trying to figure out how are these technologies really helpful, or are they imposing something on me? Are they enhancing my learning, or are they slowing me down in a way? Maybe there are some other ways that I could learn that are better than this thing that is being offered to me as a better way of learning, advertising itself as a better. So this kind of personal reflection does not go to the level of technological, I don't have to actually know a lot about the way the technology itself works, like the hardware and how software is programmed and so on. All I need to know is, does it help me learn or does it not, and in what way? And okay, there is also this sort of critical reflection on the social impact, like for example, a board created by the Ministry of Education could try to figure out whether introducing certain technology in schools would be beneficial or not, which is, okay, you have to take into account the technological aspect, how the technology itself works. Does it work sufficiently? Does it work well enough? Or does it make learning too dependent on technology? But in the end, I think the more important part of this reflection would be about how does this help students learn in a better way, does it really contribute to the main goal of education? So in that sense, I think that your lecture is going a lot in the direction of reflecting on the technology, like how the technology itself works, which I think is important, but there is this other level of reflection that is not, okay, so that's maybe a comment. Yeah.
Thank you. Very, very interesting and very, well, I would say that this comment makes me think about how the technology shaped my experience, and what I have from my experience is that the technologies once I thought were helping me, later very often appeared something different from what they were intended to be and from what I was using them for. So it's again the goal that is achieved through the use of technology. Well, it's not final goal for a human learner. When we reach this goal, we can see that the price was really high, or we see that the goal was well, misaligned. The goal was set and defined in the wrong way. And with technologies, very often it appears that, well, we are using the technology as something that belongs to us, but it's not. It doesn't. It's not ours. We are only users. Being a user, never. What my idea is here is being a user does not allow us to set the goals, being aware enough to set the goals correctly.
Rely on it. We cannot be in complete control of everything. I mean, that is exaggerated now, but I mean, we already depend on the internet. We are not. I can't imagine having some kind of private network that only me could. How would that even work? You know, we do have to rely on some common goods, common technological goods, let's call them.
Well, I agree that it's impossible in this world to be deprived from the technology and from the global technology like the internet. But we have to remember that internet, what we call internet, actually changed its meaning completely. We had several stages of development, several iterations when the initial idea of the network which will connect humans transformed into something completely opposite. The network that is used for controlling humans or for hacking and constant battlefield for data flows. Well, the meaning of internet changed. So technology is changing its meaning, its the way it is used, and I'm not sure that we are capable of predicting individually. We are not capable of predicting what particular service, what particular platform will be suitable for our goals. Only temporarily, some short period of time. Then yes, maybe.
Right. Thanks very much again for this wonderful lecture, and thank you all for a great discussion. Our time is up, so we will stop here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm really grateful to the organizers and Zelena, who really helped in and made this lecture possible. Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure.